The rain hammered against the penthouse windows like 1,000 desperate fingers seeking entry. Elena Moretti moved through the darkened apartment with practiced efficiency, her cleaning cart squeaking softly against the marble floors. She shouldn't be here. Not at this hour. Not alone. The agency had sent her with explicit instructions: clean the executive suite, ask no questions, leave before dawn. The man who lived here paid triple rates for discretion and silence. She'd been scrubbing luxury apartments for 3 years since arriving in the city, each pristine surface a reminder of the life she'd left behind in Naples. Her daughter Sophia waited in their cramped studio apartment across town, probably asleep by now with her worn stuffed rabbit clutched against her chest. 8 years old and already too familiar with absence, with making do, with her mother's exhausted smile at the end of each shift. The living room sprawled before her like a photograph from a magazine she'd never afford to buy. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering city below. Modern art hung on walls the color of storm clouds. Everything spoke of money, power, the kind of untouchable wealth that made people like her invisible. She was furniture, a shadow, nothing more. Eleanor pushed her cart toward the study, and that's when she saw it. Blood. Not much. Just a few drops on the hardwood floor near the massive mahogany desk, dark and still glistening. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled as she gripped the cart handle. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to walk out that door and never look back. But her feet wouldn't move, because there on the desk she saw papers scattered in disarray, and on one of those papers she saw a name she recognized: Detective Marco Rinaldi. The blood in her veins turned to ice. Her uncle, her mother's brother. The only family member who'd helped her escape her abusive ex-husband, who'd sent money when Sophia was sick, who'd promised her she was safe now. His name was typed on what looked like a surveillance report, his photo paperclipped to the corner. The document detailed his movements, his family, his vulnerabilities. Someone was planning to hurt him, maybe kill him. Her heart thundered against her ribs. She looked at the blood on the floor again, following the trail with her eyes. It led toward the master bedroom, the door slightly ajar. She heard nothing, no movement, no breathing, just the relentless drum of rain against glass and the pulse of her own terror. What had happened here? Who had been hurt? And why did they have information about her uncle? Eleanor's hands moved before her mind could stop them. She grabbed the papers from the desk, her fingers clumsy with fear, and shoved them into her cleaning cart beneath the industrial-sized garbage bag. She pulled out her spray bottle and rags, dropped to her knees, and began scrubbing the blood from the floor. Her movements were frantic, graceless, nothing like her usual, careful efficiency. The floorboards creaked beneath her weight. The spray bottle hissed. Her breath came in sharp gasps that she tried to muffle. She didn't know who lived here, didn't know what kind of danger she was inviting into her life. All she knew was that papers with her uncle's face on them couldn't stay in this place where blood had been spilled. The bedroom door opened. Eleanor froze, her rag pressed against the floor, her body coiled with the instinct to run. A man emerged from the shadows, and the breath left her lungs entirely. He was tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of controlled power that made the air around him feel heavy. Dark hair, slightly disheveled, a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with old scars. But it was his eyes that pinned her in place, grey as smoke, assessing her with an intensity that made her feel transparent, as if he could see every thought racing through her terrified mind. His left hand was wrapped in a hastily tied cloth, blood seeping through the fabric. They stared at each other. 1 second, 2, an eternity compressed into heartbeats. His gaze dropped to the floor where she knelt, to the spot she'd been cleaning, then to her cart, where the edge of a paper peeked out from beneath the garbage bag. His jaw tightened. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition of what she'd done. When he spoke, his voice was rough, like gravel underfoot. "You shouldn't be here. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, forced herself to meet those storm cloud eyes. "I'm from the cleaning service. I was told—" "I know what you were told." He moved closer, and she noticed the way he favored his left side, the way pain tightened the corners of his mouth. "What did you see?" "Everything. Nothing. Blood and papers and a name that meant too much. She should lie, should play dumb, should do anything except what she did next." "Nothing that matters," she whispered. "Nothing at all." His eyes narrowed. He studied her face like he was reading a book written in a language only he understood. The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire about to snap. Rain battered the windows. The city glittered below, oblivious to this moment where everything balanced on a knife's edge. "You're lying!" It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of fact, delivered without malice. Elena's hands clenched around her rag. Water and diluted blood dripped between her fingers. "I cleaned the floor. That's all. That's my job." "And the papers?" Her heart stopped. Started again. Too fast. Too hard. "What papers?" He almost smiled. Almost. The expression never reached his eyes. He took another step closer, close enough that she could smell expensive cologne mixed with copper and something darker. Danger. The scent of a predator. "The ones you took from my desk." She should run, should scream, should do anything except stay frozen on her knees like a supplicant before an altar. But Sophia's face flashed through her mind. The tiny apartment, the bills piled on the kitchen counter, the medication her daughter needed that insurance barely covered, and her uncle, the one good man who'd ever protected her, whose name was on those papers. "I don't know what you're talking about." The lie tasted like ash. He moved faster than she expected, fluid despite the injury. His good hand reached down and pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. They stood face to face now, her barely reaching his shoulder, her pulse hammering so loud she was sure he could hear it. His fingers circled her wrist, not tight enough to hurt, but firm enough to make his point clear. "I could call the police," he said quietly. "Tell them you stole from me." "You won't." The words escaped before she could stop them, reckless and true. His grip loosened slightly. "No? If you wanted the police here, they'd already be here. The blood on the floor, your hand, you're not calling anyone." She was babbling now, fear making her bold. "And I'm not stupid. I know what those papers were. Someone's targeting a cop, a detective. You're either planning to hurt him or protecting him." The words cut through her panic like a blade. "Which do you think I'm doing?" Elena's mouth went dry. She'd assumed the worst, because in her experience, men with power only used it to destroy. But there was something in his eyes now, something that looked almost like respect or curiosity, as if she'd surprised him. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know he's my family, the only person who ever helped me. And if someone's going to hurt him, I won't let that happen, even if it costs me everything." The words hung in the air between them. Outside, the rain began to ease, the storm passing, leaving only the patter of drops and the ragged sound of her breathing. His thumb pressed against her pulse point, feeling the frantic rhythm there. "What's your name?" His voice had changed, softer now, still dangerous, but in a different way. Elena Moretti." "Moretti." He repeated her last name like he was tasting it, considering it. "And the detective is—" "My uncle, Marco Rinaldi." Something shifted in his expression. He released her wrist and took a step back, creating space that somehow felt more intimate than the closeness had been. "Do you have any idea who I am, Elena?" She shook her head. Just that you can afford to live in a place like this. That you get hurt and don't go to the hospital. That people make files on cops and keep them in your office. She swallowed hard. That I should be terrified of you. And are you? Terrified? She wanted to lie again, to play the role of the cowering victim she'd perfected over years of survival. But something in her had broken open the moment she'd seen her uncle's name, and the truth spilled out instead. Yes, but I'd still do it again. Take those papers. Destroy the evidence. Whatever it takes to protect him. For the first time, he truly smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost boyish, despite the danger that still clung to him like cologne. Sit down, Elena. We need to talk. If you're wondering whether this moment changed everything, whether this chance encounter would pull a cleaning lady into a world she never imagined, you're not alone. What happens next will test every assumption Elena has about right and wrong, about who deserves protection and who deserves punishment. But to find out, you'll need to keep watching. And if you're hooked on this story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think Elena should do next. Your engagement keeps these stories coming. He gestured to one of the leather chairs that probably cost more than her yearly rent. Elena hesitated, then sat, her cleaning uniform incongruous against the expensive upholstery. He remained standing, one hand braced against the desk, his injured hand hanging at his side. The bleeding had slowed, but not stopped. "You need medical attention," she said, the words automatic. Years of taking care of Sophia, of being the responsible one, made her notice these things even when terror still buzzed beneath her skin. "It's not serious." He dismissed her concern with a slight shake of his head. "Your uncle, Detective Rinaldi, he's a good man, honest, one of maybe 3 cops in this city who can't be bought, which makes him dangerous to a lot of people. Are you one of those people?" "I was." He paused, seeming to weigh his words carefully. "Until I wasn't. The file you took, it wasn't mine. It was stolen from someone else. Someone who wants your uncle dead because he's getting too close to something they need kept buried. I got that file tonight, along with this." He gestured to his wounded hand. "From a very unpleasant conversation with very unpleasant people." Elena's mind raced. "You're telling me you were protecting him, my uncle?" "I'm telling you that the world isn't as simple as good guys and bad guys. I'm telling you that sometimes monsters fight other monsters, and the civilians get caught in the crossfire." He moved to a cabinet, pulled out a crystal decanter of amber liquid, poured himself 2 fingers. He didn't offer her any. "I'm also telling you that you just made yourself a target. By taking those papers, by seeing me here, you're now involved in something that will get you killed if you're not very, very careful." The fear came roaring back, ice flooding her veins. "Sophia," she breathed. "My daughter." His expression hardened. "How old?" 8. He was quiet for a long moment, the glass halfway to his lips. Then he set it down untouched. "Where is she now?" "Home. Alone. She's old enough. She knows not to answer the door. I always call to check." Elena was standing now, panic making her movements jerky. "I have to go. I have to get back to her." "You can't." His voice was flat, final. "Not yet. If they've been watching me, they might be watching you now too. You walk out that door and lead them straight to your daughter." The room tilted. Elena gripped the back of the chair to steady herself. This couldn't be happening. She just wanted to protect her uncle, to stop someone from hurting the one person who'd shown her kindness. And now Sophia, sweet, innocent Sophia, who'd already lost so much, was in danger because of her mother's impulse. "What do I do?" The words came out broken, desperate. "Please, I'll do anything. Just keep her safe." He studied her for what felt like an eternity. Then he pulled out his phone, pressed a single button, When someone answered, he spoke in rapid Italian, the dialect from the old country, from her grandmother's village. She caught enough to understand. Protection detail, a child, an address, immediately. Bring them both to the safe house. When he hung up, he finally looked at her again. My people will get your daughter. They'll bring her here. Both of you will stay under my protection until this is resolved. Why? Elena searched his face, looking for the trap, the hidden cost. Why would you do this for us? For me? Because you destroyed evidence to protect someone you love, even knowing it might destroy you. Something in his voice softened, became almost human. Because you looked at me, a man who could kill you without a second thought, and still chose courage over survival. And because... He paused, seemed to be deciding something. Because I'm tired of children paying for their parents' choices. Your daughter will not suffer for your bravery. Bravery. He called it bravery. What she'd thought was recklessness, or stupidity, or desperation. Eleanor sank back into the chair, her legs no longer willing to hold her weight. Who are you? My name is Dante Caruso. He said it like she should recognize it, like the name itself carried weight. And maybe it did. Maybe in circles she'd never traveled, among people she'd never met. Dante Caruso was someone to fear. And before you ask, yes, I'm exactly what you think I am. I'm what the movies make you believe exists. What the cops call organized crime. What the newspapers call a crime family. A mob boss. She destroyed evidence for a mob boss. Protected a mobster from what? From justice? From other criminals? The moral calculus made her dizzy. But you were protecting my uncle, she said slowly, trying to make sense of it. Why? Because 3 years ago, Detective Rinaldi could have destroyed me. He had evidence, witnesses, everything he needed to put me away for life. But the evidence had been obtained illegally, by a cop he later discovered was taking bribes from my enemies. Your uncle could have looked the other way, could have used that tainted evidence anyway. No one would have questioned it. I'm not exactly sympathetic. Dante's jaw tightened. Instead, he threw it out. Lost his chance at a major conviction because he wouldn't compromise his integrity. He put me back on the street because it was the right thing to do, not because I deserved it. Elena absorbed this information slowly, piece by piece. So you owe him. I owe him, and men like me always pay our debts. Dante moved to the window, gazed out at the city below. The people who want him dead, they're worse than me. They traffic children, run drugs through schools, kill without hesitation or remorse. Your uncle got close to exposing their entire operation. They will murder him and his family and anyone who might testify against them. Including me, Elena finished quietly. Including you. If they know you saw that file, if they know you took it, yes, they'll come for you and your daughter both. The words settled over her like a shroud. This was her life now. This was the consequence of one impulsive choice, one moment of fierce protective love. She thought of Sophia's laugh, the gap-toothed smile, the way she still reached for Elena's hand when they crossed the street. She thought of her daughter growing up motherless, shuttled through foster care, never understanding why her mother had vanished. How long? She asked. How long do we have to stay under your protection? Until I eliminate the threat. He turned from the window to face her, and in the low light, his eyes looked almost black. Days. Maybe weeks. I'm not sure yet. I can't miss work for weeks. I'll lose my job. We'll lose our apartment. You'll lose more than that if you're dead. He crossed to stand before her, commanding her attention. Eleanor, listen to me very carefully. You saved a good man's life tonight, whether you realize it or not. By taking that file, by destroying the blood evidence that would have tied me to the scene, you bought me time. Time to move, to protect him, to find the people responsible. but you also painted a target on your own back. The only way you and your daughter survive this is if you trust me. Completely. Trust. The word was a joke, a cosmic irony. Trust a mob boss. Trust a man who admitted to being a monster. Trust someone who operated outside the law, who solved problems with violence, whose injured hand was probably the result of torture or killing, or something equally nightmarish. But what choice did she have? "Okay," she whispered. "I trust you." The look he gave her was complicated. Part admiration, part pity, something else she couldn't name. "You're either very brave or very foolish. I'm a mother. It's the same thing." This time when he smiled, it reached his eyes. They heard voices in the hallway first, men's voices, low and efficient, then a higher sound that made Elena's heart leap into her throat. Sophia, her daughter's voice, uncertain and afraid, but trying to be brave. "I want my mama. You said my mama was here." Elena was moving before Dante could stop her, racing to the door, flinging it open. And there was Sophia in her worn pajamas decorated with faded unicorns, her dark hair tangled from sleep, her rabbit clutched to her chest. Two large men in dark suits flanked her, but they stepped aside immediately when they saw Elena. "Mama!" Sophia launched herself forward, and Elena caught her, swept her up, even though she was really getting too big for it, buried her face in that familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood. "I was so scared. These men came and said we had to leave, and I couldn't take any of my things except Bunny and—" Shh, baby, it's okay. I'm right here. I'm right here." Eleanor smoothed her daughter's hair, pressed kisses to her temple, felt the small body shaking against hers. Over Sophia's head, she met Dante's gaze. He stood in the doorway to his penthouse, this dangerous man in his blood-stained shirt, and something in his expression cracked. One of the suited men stepped forward. "Boss, we secured the apartment. No sign of surveillance or breach. We brought what we could carry. Clothes, medications, the daughter's school materials. Good. Take the items to the east bedroom. Make sure it's ready for them." Dante's voice was all business now, his armor back in place. Then softer to Sophia. "Hello, little one. My name is Dante. Your mother is going to stay here with me for a little while, and you get to stay too. Would that be all right?" Sophia pulled back from Elena's shoulder to study this stranger. At 8, she was already wise beyond her years, already knew how to read danger in adult faces. But whatever she saw in Dante's expression must have reassured her, because she nodded slowly. "Why?" "Because your mother did something very brave tonight, and brave people deserve to be protected." "My mama is always brave," Sophia said fiercely. "She's the bravest person in the whole world." Something flickered across Dante's face. Pain, or memory, or regret. "I believe you," he said quietly. "Come, let me show you where you'll sleep. Want to see what happens when a cleaning lady and her daughter move into a mob boss's penthouse? When the hunter becomes the protector, and the protected becomes family? This story is just getting started, and the danger is only beginning to close in. Drop a comment below telling me what you think will happen next, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single twist in this tale. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The east bedroom was larger than their entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, currently curtained against the night. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in linens that probably cost more than Elena's monthly income. There was an ensuite bathroom with marble fixtures and heated floors, a sitting area with plush chairs, and a television. It was obscene. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Sophia's eyes went wide. "This is all for us." "All for you," Dante confirmed. He gestured to the bags his men had deposited near the closet. "Your things are there. If you need anything else, anything at all, you tell me or one of my people, okay?" Sophia nodded, but she was already moving to the window, pressing her nose against the glass to see the city lights below. Eleanor watched her daughter's wonder and felt her heart breaking and rebuilding itself simultaneously. This wasn't the life she wanted for Sophia, but it was the life that would keep her alive. "Thank you," Eleanor said to Dante. The words felt insufficient, inadequate for the magnitude of what he was doing. "For getting her, for keeping us safe, for don't thank me yet." His expression was grave. "This isn't over, not by a long shot. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out the next steps." He turned to leave, but Elena's voice stopped him. "Your hand. You still need to take care of it." He glanced down at the bloodied cloth, as if he'd forgotten about the injury entirely. "I'll handle it." "Let me." The offer surprised them both, but Elena had spent years taking care of wounds. Sophia's scraped knees, her own split lips from her ex-husband's fists, her mother's bed sores in those final hospital days. "I'm not a doctor, but I know how to clean and dress an injury, and you helped my daughter. It's the least I can do." For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then he nodded once, sharp and decisive. "The study. There's a first aid kit in the lower desk drawer." Sophia was already examining the bathroom, exclaiming over the waterfall shower and the tub big enough to swim in. Elena pressed a kiss to her daughter's head. "Stay here, baby. I'll be right back. Lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone but me, okay?" "Okay, Mama." Sophia's eyes were serious, understanding that this was important, even if she didn't understand why. Elena followed Dante back to the study, her heart hammering for different reasons now. The papers she'd taken still sat in her cleaning cart in the hallway, evidence of her crime and her courage. The blood spot on the floor was gone, erased as thoroughly as if it had never existed. Only the two of them remained, and the weight of unspoken things between them. Dante sat heavily in the chair behind his desk, looking suddenly exhausted. Without the adrenaline of crisis, pain had etched deep lines around his mouth and eyes. Elena found the first aid kit, exactly where he'd said, then pulled a second chair close to his. "Let me see." She kept her voice gentle, the same tone she used when Sophia was hurt and trying not to cry. He unwrapped the makeshift bandage, and Elena sucked in a breath. The wound was deep, a clean slice across his palm that would definitely need stitches. Blood welled fresh as the cloth came away. "This should be seen by a doctor." "Can't. Questions I can't answer." His voice was tight with suppressed pain. "Just clean it and wrap it. I've had worse." Eleanor believed him. The scars on his forearms told stories she probably didn't want to know. She worked carefully, using antiseptic that had to burn even though he didn't flinch, applying pressure to slow the bleeding, wrapping clean gauze with practiced efficiency. Her hands were steady even though her thoughts were chaos. "How did it happen?" she asked quietly. "If you don't mind me asking." "Knife fight. The man with the file didn't want to give it up." Dante watched her work, his grey eyes tracking every movement. "He's not a problem anymore." The implication hung heavy in the air. Not a problem meant dead, meant Dante had killed him, meant the man whose hand she was so carefully bandaging was a murderer. Elena's fingers faltered for just a second before resuming their work. "Does that bother you?" Dante asked. "Knowing what I am? What I do?" Did it? She'd grown up on stories of men like him. Her grandmother's whispered tales of the old country, of the families that ruled through fear and violence, of blood debts and ancient codes. She'd thought they were myths, exaggerations, things that belonged to another time and place. But here he sat, solid and real, dangerous and somehow protective all at once. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "I should be terrified. I should take Sophia and run as far and fast as I can. But you brought my daughter here safe. You're protecting my uncle. You're keeping us alive. So no, I guess it doesn't bother me as much as it should. And that probably makes me a terrible person. Or a practical one." He didn't pull away when she finished wrapping his hand. and they sat there for a moment, her fingers still touching his wrist, his pulse steady and strong beneath her palm. "Eleanor, I need you to understand something. What I'm doing for you and Sophia, it's not just about honor or debts. Men in my position, we don't have families of our own, not real ones. Too dangerous. Too many enemies who'd use them to destroy us. But that also means we don't understand what it's like to love someone more than you love your own survival." She waited, sensing he had more to say. "You looked at those papers and saw your uncle's face, and you didn't hesitate. Didn't think about the consequences to yourself. Just acted on pure protective instinct." His voice was rough, almost reverent. "I've seen soldiers hesitate in combat, seen hardened criminals crack under pressure, but you just moved. Like breathing, like it was the only possible choice." "He's family," Elena said simply. "What else could I have done? Anything. Everything. Most people would have walked away, would have convinced themselves it wasn't their problem." His fingers turned, caught hers, held them gently despite his injured hand. "I'm telling you this because what comes next is going to be hard. The people hunting your uncle, hunting us now, they're not going to stop. And you're going to see things, learn things about me that will make you question whether I'm better than them. But I need you to remember this moment. Remember that we're on the same side, protecting the same people. Can you do that?" Eleanor looked into his storm cloud eyes and saw something she hadn't expected. Loneliness. This powerful, dangerous man was utterly alone, surrounded by soldiers and yes-men and enemies, but no one who truly knew him. No one he could trust completely. No one who'd take a bullet for him the way she'd risk everything for Sophia. "I can do that," she promised. "But you have to promise me something too. Promise me that whatever happens, whatever you have to do to end this, Sophia stays safe. She doesn't see the violence. She doesn't get hurt, even if it means letting me go." His grip on her hand tightened. "That's not going to happen. Promise me anyway." For a long moment he was silent, his eyes searching her face like he was memorizing it. Then, quietly, "I promise. Your daughter will grow up safe, happy with her mother, no matter what it costs me." The weight of that vow settled between them like a contract written in something more binding than words. Elena believed him. She shouldn't. He was a criminal, a killer, a man whose business was built on broken bodies and broken laws. But she believed him anyway. "Get some sleep," Dante said finally, releasing her hand. "Tomorrow we start planning. But tonight, you're safe here, both of you." Elena stood, gathered the bloody cloths, and used bandages. She hesitated at the door, looked back at him. He'd already turned to his computer, pulling up screens full of information she couldn't read from this distance. Working even injured, even exhausted, even in the middle of the night. A man who never stopped protecting what he'd claimed as his. When had they become his, she wondered? When she'd destroyed the evidence? When she'd agreed to trust him? Or was it the moment their eyes had first met, her on her knees cleaning his blood, him emerging from the bedroom like vengeance personified? "Good night, Dante," she whispered. He glanced up, and for just a second, the dangerous mob boss disappeared. In his place sat a man who looked almost gentle, almost human, almost vulnerable. "Good night, Eleanor. Sleep well." She returned to the east bedroom where Sophia had already claimed the bed, spread out like a starfish in the center of all that expensive linen, Bunny tucked under her chin. Eleanor climbed in beside her daughter, pulled her close, breathed in that little girl's scent she knew wouldn't last much longer. Growing up happened so fast. Innocence slipped away while you weren't looking. "Mama!" Sophia's voice was sleepy, barely a whisper. "Is that man going to hurt us?" "No, baby. He's going to keep us safe." "Promise?" Eleanor thought of Dante's hand in hers, his promise about Sophia's future, the way he'd looked at her daughter with something almost like wonder. She thought of the danger outside these walls, the enemies circling, the violence that would come. But she also thought of the determination in his eyes, the absolute certainty in his voice when he'd sworn to protect them. "I promise," she whispered into Sophia's hair. "I promise." And somewhere in the darkness of the penthouse, Dante Caruso sat at his desk and began making calls. To his most trusted soldiers, to his contacts in the police department, to the shadowy figures who owed him favors and feared his wrath. Because a cleaning lady had done something impossibly brave, and now he would do something impossible in return. He would keep her and her daughter safe, or he would burn the entire city down, trying. The next morning arrived too soon, and with too much brightness. Elena woke to find Sophia already up, exploring the penthouse like it was a palace from one of her storybooks. The smell of coffee drifted from somewhere, rich and dark and far better than the instant granules they usually bought. For a moment, still caught in the fog of sleep, Elena forgot where they were. Then memory crashed back, and with it came fear, cold and sharp. She found Sophia in the kitchen, a massive space of stainless steel and black granite that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. Dante stood at the stove, somehow managing to flip pancakes with his injured hand wrapped in fresh bandages. He'd changed into clean clothes, a dark grey t-shirt and jeans that made him look less like a mob boss and more like a dangerous kind of normal. "You cook?" Elena couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. He glanced over his shoulder, that slight smile playing at his lips. "My mother insisted. Said a man who couldn't feed himself wasn't really a man at all." Sophia sat at the counter on a tall stool, her legs swinging, watching Dante with fascination. "Mama never makes pancakes. She's always too tired from work." The casual statement stabbed at Elena's heart. All the small ways she'd failed as a mother, the corners she'd cut, the experiences she couldn't give Sophia. But before she could say anything, Dante spoke. "Your mother works 3 jobs to keep you safe and fed and clothed. That's not failure, Piccola. That's love." He slid a plate of perfectly golden pancakes in front of Sophia. "Eat. Growing girls need proper breakfast." Eleanor stood in the doorway, watching this strange domestic scene. A mob boss making pancakes for her daughter chattering about school and friends like they were on vacation instead of hiding from killers. The morning sun streaming through the windows, painting everything in shades of gold. It was surreal. It was dangerous. It was... "Coffee?" Dante held out a mug, steam rising from the dark liquid within. "Thank you." Their fingers brushed as she took it, and she felt that spark again, that electric recognition of something shifting between them. She pulled away quickly, moving to sit beside Sophia. "Did you sleep?" "Some," which probably meant no. He placed a plate of pancakes in front of her, then leaned against the counter with his own coffee. "We have decisions to make, about your uncle, about the threat. I need your input." "My input?" Elena blinked. I'm nobody. I don't know anything about..." She glanced at Sophia, edited herself. "About your business. You're not nobody." His voice was firm, absolute. "You're the woman who saw her family in danger and acted without hesitation. That makes you the most qualified person in this room to help me figure out how to protect him." Something warm bloomed in Elena's chest at those words. Not nobody. When was the last time anyone had valued her opinion, had treated her like she mattered beyond her ability to clean or serve or disappear? "What do you need to know?" They talked in careful euphemisms over breakfast, speaking around and through the truth for Sophia's benefit. Dante explained that there were bad people who wanted to hurt good people, and they needed to figure out how to stop them. Elena told him everything she knew about her uncle's work, his habits, his dedication. She mentioned that Marco was supposed to testify in a few weeks, that he'd told her the case was big enough to change everything. They'll move before then, Dante said quietly. Can't let him get to that courtroom, which means we have maybe a week, probably less. Can't you warn him? Tell him what you know? And say what? That I've been protecting him from other criminals? That I stole evidence from my enemies? He's a good cop, Elena. He'd arrest me on principle, danger or no danger. The law is his religion. Dante's expression was grim. No, we handle this my way. Quietly. Permanently. The meaning was clear. He was going to kill the people threatening her uncle. Murder them before they could strike first. Elena should have been horrified, should have protested, but all she felt was relief, cold and crystalline and sure. Let the monsters fight each other. Let Dante protect her family with violence and finality. She was done playing by rules that had never protected her anyway. This is where everything changes, where the moral lines blur, and the stakes climb higher than anyone expected. Elena's about to learn that protection comes with a price, and Dante's about to discover that some people are worth breaking every rule to keep. Stay with us for the next part of this story. Subscribe and comment below with what you think Elena should do next. Would you trust a mob boss to protect your family? Your thoughts fuel this journey. Okay, Elena said simply. What do you need from me? Sophia finished her pancakes and wandered off to explore more of the penthouse, calling back questions about whether she could watch TV or if there were any books. Dante directed her to a library. Of course there was a library, and suddenly Elena and Dante were alone in the kitchen, the remains of breakfast between them, the truth settling heavy. I need you to call your uncle, Dante said. Just a normal check-in, nothing suspicious. I need to know his schedule for the next few days, where he'll be, when he'll be vulnerable, what protection he has. You want me to spy on him? It wasn't a question. I want you to help me keep him alive. There's a difference. Was there? Elena wasn't sure anymore. The world she'd lived in for 29 years had rules, boundaries, clear distinctions between right and wrong. But that world had also allowed her husband to beat her bloody and walk away unpunished, had trapped her in poverty while the rich grew richer, had made her invisible except when they needed their toilets cleaned and their floors scrubbed. Maybe Dante's world, for all its violence and moral ambiguity, was at least honest about what it was. I'll call him, she agreed. But after you do what you need to do, he can never know I was involved. Can you promise that? I promise. Marco Rinaldi will never know his niece saved his life. He'll go on believing in justice and law and the system that barely works. And he'll be alive to do it. Elena nodded, pulled out her phone. Her hands shook as she dialed, but her voice stayed steady. Uncle Marco answered on the third ring, his deep voice warm with affection. Elena, I was just thinking about you. How's my favorite niece? I'm your only niece, she laughed, and it sounded almost genuine. How are you? Working too hard as usual? They talked for 10 minutes. Small talk, family news, Sophia's upcoming school project. Elena asked casual questions about his week. Any big plans? No, mostly office work and a few follow-up meetings. One late-night stakeout on Thursday. Probably nothing, but he had to check it out. Otherwise, pretty quiet. Dante listened, his grey eyes never leaving her face. When she hung up, he nodded once. Thursday. That's when they'll try. Isolated location, late night, minimal backup, perfect opportunity. And you'll be there first, Elena said. Not a question, a statement of fact. I'll be there first. They sat in silence, the weight of what they were planning settling between them. Elena should leave, should take Sophia and run as far as her meagre savings could carry them. But she'd seen the file, knew the scope of the threat. Running meant death, just slower, drawn out, always waiting for the bullet, or the knife, or the hands around her throat. Staying with Dante meant accepting his protection, his methods, his world. It meant crossing a line she could never uncross. It meant becoming complicit in violence, even if she never pulled a trigger herself. But it also meant Sophia got to grow up, got to have birthdays and graduations, and all the small moments that made a life, and that was worth any price. "What happens after?" Elena asked quietly. "After you? After it's done? Do we just go home and pretend this never happened?" Dante's expression shifted, became something complicated and raw. "Do you want to go home? Back to the 3 jobs and the 2 small apartment and scraping by?" "Yes. No. I don't know." Elena pressed her palms against the cool granite counter. "That's my life. It might not be much, but it's mine. It's normal. It's safe. It's not safe, and it never was." His voice was gentle but uncompromising. "You think once I handle this threat, there won't be others. You've seen my face, seen my home, witnessed my business. Other families, other enemies, they might come looking for leverage, for information." The implication hit her like cold water. "So we're never safe. Is that what you're saying? We're in this now permanently?" "I'm saying I can't unknow you exist, can't unsee what you did to protect your uncle, how you put yourself between danger and the people you love without hesitation." He moved around the counter to stand before her, and Eleanor was reminded again how large he was, how powerful. "I'm saying that I want to keep protecting you, not because I have to, because I want to." Eleanor's breath caught. "Why?" "Because you're brave and you're good, and you deserve better than the life you've been living. Because your daughter deserves a mother who isn't exhausted all the time, who can be there for school plays and sick days, and all the moments you've been missing while working yourself to death. Because—" He paused, seemed to struggle with the words. "Because I haven't wanted anything for myself in 10 years. Haven't let myself want anything. But I want this. Want you here. Want to be able to make pancakes for a little girl who deserves them. Want to see you smile without fear behind your eyes." The confession hung in the air between them, raw and unexpected. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was crazy. This was moving too fast. They barely knew each other. He was a criminal. She was— "I'm nobody," she said again, but with less conviction this time. "Stop saying that." Dante's hand came up, cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Elena Moretti, you are the woman who cleaned blood off my floor and stole from my desk to protect someone you love. You are the woman who looked at danger and walked toward it anyway. You are the woman raising a daughter to be brave and kind and strong, despite having nothing and no one to help you. You are extraordinary, and I'm asking you to stay, not because you have to, because you want to." Did she want to? God help her. But yes, she wanted this strange new possibility, this life where Sophia could have pancakes, and she could sleep past dawn, and the weight on her shoulders might finally ease. She wanted the way Dante looked at her daughter with something like wonder. Wanted the safety of his walls and his soldiers, and his dangerous competence. But wanting it didn't make it right, didn't erase what he was, or what staying would mean. "I need to think," Elena whispered. "This is too much, too fast. I need time." Dante's hand fell away, and she immediately missed its warmth. "Of course. Take whatever time you need. Nothing changes until after Thursday anyway. After I handle the threat. Then we can discuss the future. If there was a future. If Dante survived. If her uncle survived. If they all made it through Thursday night alive. So many ifs, so much uncertainty." Elena found Sophia in the library. An actual library with floor-to-ceiling shelves and a sliding ladder, and more books than her daughter had ever seen in one place. Sophia sat curled in an oversized chair, a picture book in her lap, her face radiant with joy. "Mama, look. There's a whole series about a girl who solves mysteries with her dog. Can I read them all?" All of them, Elena confirmed, her heart breaking and healing all at once. This, this simple moment of her daughter reading in comfort and safety, this was worth everything. The days passed in strange, suspended animation. Dante disappeared for hours at a time, returning with that coiled energy that meant violence brewing. Eleanor tried to establish some normalcy for Sophia. Routine bedtimes, homeschool lessons at the penthouse dining table, careful explanations that they were just helping Mr. Dante with something important and would go home soon. But soon kept feeling further away. Elena caught herself noticing things about Dante. The way he always made sure there was fresh fruit for Sophia's breakfast. How he never raised his voice, never showed impatience even when Sophia asked him 100 questions about everything. The books that appeared, age-appropriate novels and picture books and educational materials. The way he'd put his hand on the small of Elena's back when she was stressed. A gesture of comfort that felt both foreign and familiar. She was falling. She knew it. Recognized the signs from her disastrous marriage. This need to rely on someone stronger, to let someone else carry the weight. But this felt different. Dante didn't diminish her, didn't make her small. Instead, he seemed to see her more clearly than anyone ever had. On Wednesday night, Elena found him in his study, staring at screens full of maps and photographs and information she didn't understand. His injured hand was healing, the bandages smaller now. He looked tired, no, exhausted, worn down by the weight of leadership and responsibility and whatever darkness lived inside him. "Can't sleep?" she asked from the doorway. He glanced up, and something in his expression softened when he saw her. Preparing for tomorrow, making sure nothing goes wrong. Eleanor moved into the room, stood beside his desk. "You're planning to kill them, the men who want my uncle dead." "Yes." No hesitation, no attempt to soften it. "All of them?" "Every single one." She should be horrified. Instead, she felt only cold satisfaction. Good. They deserve it. Dante stood, moved around the desk to stand before her. This close, she could smell his cologne, could see the silver threading through his dark hair, could see the scars that marked him, inside and out. "Eleanor, after tomorrow, assuming we all survive, I'm going to ask you again to stay, to let me take care of you and Sophia. I need you to know that's not an idle offer. I mean it. Full commitment, protection, security, money, education for Sophia, everything you need." "And what do you get?" Elena asked. "What's in it for you?" His hand came up to her face again, that same gentle gesture that undid her every time. "You. That's all I want. Just you, your smile, your courage, the way you make this empty place feel like it might actually be a home." "I'm not what you think I am," Elena's voice cracked. "I'm broken, used up. I've made so many mistakes. My judgment is terrible. I married a man who beat me. I let things get so bad that my daughter and I were barely surviving. I'm not some prize to be won." "You're human," Dante said softly. "You're a survivor. You're someone who kept going when anyone else would have quit. And yes, you're going to be mine. Not a possession, not a trophy. Mine the way I'm going to be yours. Equal, partner, family." The word family broke something in her. Elena had been alone for so long, carrying everything, trusting no one. The idea of sharing that burden, of letting someone else be strong when she was weak, it was terrifying and intoxicating all at once. "If I say yes," she whispered, "if I agree to stay, you have to promise me Sophia never sees the violence, never knows what you really do. She gets to be innocent as long as possible. I promise." His forehead touched hers, their breath mingling. "She'll be so protected she won't even know there's danger to be protected from. She'll grow up safe and happy and normal. On my life, Elena. On my life." And Elena believed him, believed this dangerous man who'd somehow become her sanctuary. She tilted her head up, her lips finding his in a kiss that tasted like coffee and promises and new beginnings. He kissed her back gently, carefully, like she was something precious instead of something broken. When they finally pulled apart, they were both shaking. "Come back alive tomorrow," Eleanor said. "Don't you dare get yourself killed when I've just decided to let you into our lives." Dante smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed him. "I've survived worse. I'll survive this. You better." Thursday arrived, bathed in golden afternoon light. Dante left early, his soldiers gathering like shadows. He kissed Elena goodbye, a real kiss, claiming and promising, and pressed his hand to Sophia's head in benediction. "I'll be back before you wake up," he promised the little girl. "And tomorrow we'll do something fun, whatever you want." "Ice skating?" Sophia asked hopefully. "Ice skating it is." Then he was gone, and Eleanor was left with the waiting, the horrible, endless waiting. She kept Sophia busy with movies and games and reading, but her own mind kept circling back to her uncle out there somewhere, unaware that death was stalking him, that salvation was coming in the form of a mob boss with grey eyes and gentle hands. The night stretched on. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m., 2. Elena couldn't sleep, couldn't rest. She paced the penthouse like a caged animal until finally exhausted, she collapsed on the couch in the living room. That's where she was when Dante finally returned. He came through the door at 4 a.m, and Elena knew immediately it was done. There was blood on his clothes. Not his own, she could tell by the way he moved. His face was expressionless, locked down tight. But his eyes found hers across the room, and in them she saw exhaustion and relief and something darker. "Is he—" Elena couldn't finish the question. "Your uncle is fine, shaken but unharmed. The threat is eliminated. All of them." Dante moved into the room slowly, like he wasn't sure he was welcome. "It's over, Elena. Your family is safe." She should ask for details, should want to know exactly what happened, but she found she didn't care, didn't want those images in her head. All that mattered was that her uncle was alive and the danger was past. Elena crossed to Dante, wrapped her arms around him, despite the blood, despite everything. He stood rigid for a moment, then pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. They stood there in the pre-dawn darkness, two broken people holding each other together. "Stay," he whispered against her temple. "Please, say you'll stay." Eleanor thought of Sophia sleeping peacefully down the hall, thought of the life Dante was offering, safety and security and a chance to breathe, thought of his hands making pancakes and his promise to protect her daughter, thought of the way she felt when he looked at her, like she was extraordinary instead of expendable. "We'll stay," she said. "For however long this lasts, we'll stay." "Forever," Dante corrected. "This lasts forever." And maybe it would. Maybe this impossible thing between them would survive. Or maybe it would burn out fast and bright, leaving only ash and regret. But for now, in this moment, Eleanor let herself believe in the possibility of happiness. Let herself imagine a future where she wasn't just surviving, but living, where Sophia had opportunities, and she had rest, and they were both finally safe. "Forever," she echoed, and prayed it was true. If you've made it this far, you know this isn't just a story about a cleaning lady and a mob boss. It's about finding family in unexpected places. It's about the courage to choose a different life, even when that choice is terrifying. It's about protection and sacrifice, and the complicated reality that sometimes love means accepting the darkness in someone while believing in their light. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you think happens next, because Elena and Dante's story is just beginning. The danger may be over, but the journey of building a life together, that's about to get interesting. Don't miss what comes next. 6 months later, Elena stood in the kitchen of Dante's penthouse, their penthouse. "Now, and watched her daughter show Dante a drawing she'd made at school. Sophia was laughing, animated, secure in a way she'd never been before. Her clothes fit properly. Her hair shone with good nutrition. She'd made friends, joined a dance class, started talking about maybe wanting to be a veterinarian someday. Elena had quit all 3 of her cleaning jobs. She'd enrolled in night classes to finish her degree, something she'd abandoned when she got pregnant with Sophia. Dante had insisted, said she was too smart to waste her potential. She was studying business management of all things. The irony wasn't lost on her. Detective Marco Rinaldi still didn't know his niece had saved his life. The official story was that his internal investigation had led to several arrests, that the threat against him had been neutralized through proper police work. Elena saw him every few weeks for family dinners at a nice restaurant, and they talked about normal things. Sophia's schooling, Elena's mysterious new administrative position that paid so well, his upcoming retirement plans. He never knew, would never know, and Elena was learning to live with that secret. She was also learning to live with the other secrets, the knowledge of what Dante really did, the understanding that the money providing Sophia's opportunities came from illegal enterprises, the awareness that the safety they enjoyed was purchased with violence and fear. It should have eaten at her conscience. And sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, it did. But then she'd remember her uncle alive and well, would think of Sophia's laugh, so much freer now, would feel Dante's arms around her, solid and certain, and she'd make peace with her choices one more time. "Mama," Sophia called, "Dante says we can get a dog. Can we? Please?" Elena looked at Dante, who shrugged innocently. "I may have mentioned it was a possibility." "A small dog," Elena stipulated, but she was already smiling, already imagining Sophia's joy, the way a puppy would make this impossible life feel even more normal. "And you're in charge of training it." "Deal." Dante crossed to her, pressed a kiss to her temple. It had become his gesture, that tender touch that said, "I'm here. You're safe. We're okay. Thank you for taking a chance on this, on us." "Thank you for making pancakes," Elena countered, "and for keeping your promises." And he had. Sophia had never seen the violence, never heard her mother cry herself to sleep those first few weeks, processing what it meant to be part of this world. Never knew that the kind man who made her laugh and taught her to play chess and read her bedtime stories was also someone very dangerous. To Sophia, Dante was just Dante, the man who'd given them a home, who'd become family. Elena had learned to live in the cognitive dissonance, to accept that people were complicated, that morality wasn't black and white, that sometimes monsters protected what angels abandoned. She'd learned that love could bloom in darkness, that safety could come from dangerous places, that family was who you chose, not who you were born to. Was it a perfect life? No. Elena still woke sometimes in the middle of the night, heart racing, wondering what she'd done, still questioned whether she'd made the right choice, still worried about Sophia discovering the truth someday and hating her for it. But then morning would come. Dante would make coffee. Sophia would chatter about her day, and Elena would remember that before they'd barely been surviving. Now they were living, and maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. "I love you," Dante said quietly, meant only for her ears while Sophia returned to her drawing. "Both of you, more than I thought I was capable of loving anything." "I know," Elena answered, and she did. Could see it in every gesture, every decision, every moment he'd chosen them over convenience or self-interest. "I love you too. Despite everything, because of everything. I love you." It wasn't the story she'd imagined for herself, wasn't the life she'd dreamed of as a girl, but it was hers, theirs. This strange, impossible family, built on courage and circumstance, and choices made in the dark. And in the end, wasn't that enough? Wasn't that everything? Outside, the city gleamed. Inside, a little girl drew pictures while her mother and her protector planned dinner. Ordinary moments in an extraordinary life, danger always lurking at the edges, but held at bay by one man's absolute determination to keep them safe. Elena Moretti had destroyed evidence to protect a stranger. In doing so, she'd found a family, found a home, found herself. And Dante Caruso, the mob boss who wasn't supposed to have weaknesses, had discovered that his greatest strength was the love of a brave woman and her daughter, that protecting them gave him purpose beyond power, that making pancakes could be as significant as ruling an empire. They'd found each other in blood and fear and impossible circumstances, but they'd built something beautiful anyway, something lasting, something worth fighting for. And if the world outside didn't understand, didn't approve, didn't accept their choices, well, that was the world's problem, not theirs. They were family now, the three of them against everything, and that was a bond no danger could break, no judgment could diminish, no distance could erase. Forever, Dante had promised, forever Elena had agreed, and forever was exactly what they intended to have.